Hello, it's February 6th, 2026, and I'm David Debato, co host of The Dictators here on the No Delusion Zone. My other co host of this live stream, Jonathan Fink, is not available today. So I'm going to be going solo. Jonathan is literally putting his life at risk. He's in Kyiv right now. And as those of you who watch this program and certainly watch Jonathan's channel, the Silicon Valley or Silicon Curtain rather on YouTube, know that he does go to Kyiv every once in a while, and he's in Kyiv right now, dodging those bastard Russian missiles and drones. It's been relentless, and I fear for his safety. I fear for everyone's safety, all the Ukrainians in Kyiv and all over Ukraine, with this murderous, barbaric barrage that's just been intensifying over the last several weeks and months, even during the so-called peace negotiations with the United States. It's just horrendous. Kyiv in particular is being really hard hit. They have very few hours of electricity. Many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people living in Kyiv have been without electricity, hot water, obviously then refrigerator, fresh food, sleep, having to constantly be going to shelters, freezing. It's extremely cold right now in Ukraine, in Kyiv, and they're having to deal with that. So anyway, God bless Jonathan. My prayers are with him. When you watch this, please send your prayers to Jonathan in Kyiv and wish him a safe stay and a safe return. So again, as I said, I'm going to be going solo today. We also don't have a guest because I knew he was going to be in Kyiv, and I didn't want to do too much without him. He's my go-to guy on a lot of issues. So it's going to be a relatively short episode of The Dictators this Friday. I didn't want to cancel it though, because I do want us, meaning Jonathan and I, and the folks that will hopefully start to watch this, to count on the fact that unless there's an emergency, every Friday at about this time, we're going to be presenting another live stream, another episode of The Dictators. And Lord knows that there's too many dictators right now to go around. The main dictator in the Kremlin in Moscow, his protege, Donald Trump, being the two most dangerous ones. You've got your Xi's and Uns and more, but those two are the most dangerous and obnoxious ones right now. So when I say the dictators, generally, not always, but generally, I and Jonathan are talking about Putin and Trump. Talking about Putin, and I'm going to be going right to Ukraine right after this on The Dictators episode. But to start off, there's always a really horrendous, disgusting story about Donald Trump and MAGA here in the United States, whether it's violence, crude talk, insults, threats, just horrible things happen every single day, almost every hour of every day. The latest one that I think is particularly nauseating and disgusting, but very, very indicative, emblematic, a symbol, if you will, of Donald Trump and MAGA and their crude, racist, utterly racist behavior. If anybody thought or has the nerve to say that MAGA supporters, Trump supporters, are not racists, well, number one, they're full of shit, but let me just say this, and I'm not going to read the stories. You can find this on the internet. Donald Trump sent out, I understand, something like 200 messages last night on his social media account, Lie Social. He calls it Truth Social. Of course, it's a lie. And one of the most disgusting messages, social media messages he put out on his platform was a short short video with some music. And at the very end of the video, for about a 2 or 3 second clip from that video, he doctored with AI a scene with Barack Obama and his wife as monkeys laughing hysterically and dancing up and down to the music. Now, I know that's probably going to make MAGA people laugh and any racist laugh. That's fine. The president of the United States put out on the internet for all to see on his social media account a video describing or showing a doctored video of a former president of the United States and a former first lady as monkeys. Black Americans, Black people portrayed as monkeys. That used to be very common. Oh, I don't know, about 100 years ago. It was even too common 50 or 60 years ago during the civil rights movement here in the United States. But for a sitting president of the United States of America in the year 2026 to put out a video portraying a former president and first lady, Black president and Black first lady, as monkeys, there really are no words. Well, there are some words: scumbag, motherfucker, traitor, piece of shit, and there are others, referencing Trump, of course. That's what he's all about, folks. And I don't know how anyone with a brain could defend him and say he's not racist after that. Well, I don't know how they could defend him before that. But after that, it really makes me nauseous and angry. But I can't get too nauseous and too angry all the time, or I wouldn't be able to carry on. But I did want to open with that. That's the president of the United States, folks. And why anybody still trust him? This is a demented, crazy, cruel, violent, illiterate, convicted criminal of a man. And half of the voting public in America re-elected him as president. Enough said. Now on to Ukraine. As I said, as I've been saying, writing, talking about the recent negotiations between Russia, the United States, and Ukraine. I said without any hesitation whatsoever that it would amount to nothing because Russia doesn't compromise. There was nothing Russia was going to give that they didn't give before. There was nothing they were going to agree to that they hadn't agreed to before. And there were certain things, thank God, that Ukraine was not going to agree to. And America, just who cares? Witkoff and the gang, these witless Americans that were there. So it was clear to anyone, not just me, any analyst, any pundits, anybody with half a brain that was watching this, that nothing was going to come of the negotiations in the UAE. And they didn't. They just concluded them and said pretty much, title of a recent article, and there's many, of course, Ukraine-Russia talks end with little progress and hints of an impasse, meaning it's going to drag on for a long time. Virtually nothing was agreed to. The only positive thing, and it's a big thing, was an exchange of prisoners, both Ukrainian and Russian. Absolutely fantastic. That's great. And there should be more of that. But in terms of ending the war and declaring peace and guaranteeing Ukraine's sovereignty and rebuilding Ukraine, nothing. Or as the Italians would say, that. But again, to me, that was no surprise. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating also that many people on the internet, even many national leaders and the media expected something to come of this. They kept saying, well, it looks positive. And when Witkoff would say something that we're making progress and the Russians have been very receptive and all this other BS, they actually believed that. Nonsense. There was no way anything was going to come out of this, and nothing did come out of this. Folks, we're looking at, unfortunately, a long time, a war that's going to drag on much longer than it should. It should have been over 4 years ago if the United States had actually supplied Ukraine with what they have been begging for in terms of weapons, ammunition, training, and intelligence. But it's another story. A related story to Ukraine that specifically deals with Europe, NATO, the EU, and Europe as a whole, has to do with the probable, I won't even say possible, the probable attack or / invasion that Russia is planning for Europe. So Europe, NATO, had a major war game recently, very recently, where they war gamed, they planned about a potential Russian attack, a Russian invasion through, of course, the Baltics. I think starting with Kaliningrad and also portions of Poland, and then, as I said, the Baltics. And the title of that story is "A War Game Shows Just How Vulnerable Europe Is to a Russian Attack." And I am going to read just an excerpt of this. European governments are preparing for a war with Russia. A newly released war game suggests they're not ready. A Russia incursion or outright invasion into countries of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and European Union has become more likely because of Europe's tensions with President Trump over Greenland, Ukraine, trade, and other matters, many European security and political leaders say. And I'm just going to read excerpts. The question is, how soon? The earlier belief in Berlin and other capitals was that Russia would not be able to threaten NATO until 2029 or so. There's now a growing consensus that such a crisis could come much sooner, before Europe, which is expanding its own investment in defense, is in a position to fight back. And it goes on and on and on. But essentially, this war game showed that Europe just is not ready right now at all for a Russian invasion based on current figures, current numbers, statistics, and known capabilities of the Russian military. And instead of saying that Russia is probably going to attack or invade NATO, if they do, in 2029 or later, meaning 3, 4, 5 years from now, this article goes on to say that no. The new consensus among NATO leaders are that it could happen within the next 1 to 2 years. 1 to 2 years. And folks, Europe's not ready. NATO is not ready. The EU is not ready. And this just highlights, just confirms what many of us, anybody that keeps up on military and intelligence issues and developments, especially in Europe, what we've known. This is no secret to the European leaders, to the generals, the leaders, the politicians, and intelligence professionals in Europe. It's nothing new, but they now can confirm it for the rest of Europe to see, to their own people, hopefully, because this has been widely publicized. I won't say shouting, although sometimes I do shout about this. I've been saying this for years. Russia is going to do something against Europe very, very soon, not in 5 to 10 years, in 1 to 2 or maybe 3 years. Look, let me just say this. No, I'm not ignoring the fact that Russia has actually declared war on Europe, even though Europe hasn't acknowledged it. There is a huge hybrid war, if you will, taking place inside Europe and has for years, and that's ramping up. Sabotage, murders, arson, drone attacks, MiG incursions, espionage, and on and on and on. And that's being ramped up every day by Russian operatives, by the Russian military, by the GRU, the FSB. And Europe has been very slow to react to that. And they certainly haven't been honest with their population. That's the thing that I think pisses me off the most. They haven't been honest with their own people. The leaders know, the military knows, the intelligence services know, but they're still hiding it from their own people. They are giving them the false hope that if Russia attacks Western Europe or even Eastern Europe, it's several years in the future. Bullshit. It's right over the horizon. We're talking 1+ years. 1+ years. Russia's on a war footing, folks. Russia has been on a war footing for years, meaning the factories that used to produce cars and clothes and chemicals and fertilizer and toys are now producing weapons, ammunition, tanks, jets, artillery shells, uniforms. And they've been doing that for years. Their economy is on and has been on a wartime footing for years. Europe still is not. They still haven't turned their economies into a wartime footing. Their factories that have been turned over to peacetime use decades ago are still in peacetime mode. They still haven't turned them over into a wartime factory. They still are not producing anywhere near enough military goods. We're talking ammunition, artillery shells, small arms, armor, drones, especially, uh, aircraft, ships, you name it. They still haven't done that. Even with all of the information available, the intelligence available, the out and out declarations by the Kremlin, Europe is still dragging its feet. So again, this war game, the most recent one, just confirms what many of us knew, that if Russia attacks within the next year or so, which is highly likely, Europe is not ready, and they're going to lose the Baltics immediately. They're just going to lose. Look, the Baltics are going to fight like hell, and they're going to really, really take a chunk out of the Russian army. There's no question about it. But they're small countries. And unless NATO reinforces them quickly, immediately, which this war game says they will not, Germany hesitating, by the way, making up its mind, what should we do? And by the time Berlin makes up its mind, the Baltics are gone, according to this war game. Poland, little different. They've got a much bigger military. But again, without any support from NATO, it's only a matter of time before they're worn down. And as I've said many, many times before, I don't believe that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth in the Pentagon would come to the aid of NATO. I hate to say that. It makes me nauseous. But I just don't believe it. Unless things drastically change right away, I don't believe that even if Article 5 were invoked, that NATO was pleading with the United States to help them, to back them up, to support them after a Russian invasion. I don't believe that Donald Trump would order American troops to do that, to support Europe. And that's it for today. Again, I apologize. Well, I don't apologize, but there's no Jonathan Fink here because he's dodging Russian missiles and drones right now. And God, I hope he's safe. I'm trying to keep in touch with him as much as I can, but he doesn't have Wi-Fi or electricity most of the time. So again, please send along your prayers to Jonathan. And I and he will see you hopefully next Friday at this same time on the next live stream episode of The Dictators. Meanwhile, you can see me almost every day on my own live stream on my website, which is protectingtherepublic.com. And I encourage you to go there, of course, and become a subscriber. You need all the support you can get. Become a free subscriber and then a paid subscriber. You need your financial support. And if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously hit the subscribe button. I could use all the subscribers and support I can get there as well. So until the next time, whether it's watching my solo live streams on my website or watching Jonathan and I on The Dictators next Friday, you all, as I say, take care, stay safe, and stay sane.